Welcome back. This is the final tutorial on working with blueprints. Today we're going to create a flashlight effect that's going to work something like this. When we go in and we play, we're going to have our third-person player, and when we walk up to a wall and hit the F key, it's going to shine a flashlight wherever he happens to be facing. So it's kind of a flashlight effect. It's a light attached to the player. You notice that there is no flashlight in his hand. We're going to cover how to do that, how to attach an object to a socket when we start talking about skeletal meshes here in a future lecture. But for right now, we're going to get this set up so at least we have the ability to act like we have a flashlight in a darkened room. And it works pretty well. We're also going to be talking about IES profiles. It stands for Illuminating Engineering Society, IES. And they're a group of professionals that have been around for about 160 years or so. And what they do is that they represent the lighting industry. And when an architect is trying to design a particular effect or a particular lighting technique in a building space, they have these profiles that they can call on, so they'll know exactly how lights are going to appear on the objects around them in the space. The kind of baffling that occurs around them, and it's like, the difference between a fluorescent light and a regular fixture in a classroom as opposed to a light bulb and a lamp. And so what they do is they use these effects when they're doing their 3D lighting to represent their finished building. So we're going to be talking about those as well, and I've got a whole slew of them for you to take and use and pick and choose when you want to do something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause here for a moment, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to get this guy all set up and ready to go. Okay, this is a pretty easy one to set up. In fact, it really literally only takes about 10 steps or so, and I've got the handout that is out there in Canvas to do what we need to do. And it's like I said, it's a fairly simple setup, but it does involve us doing something that we haven't really done before. So I have shown you before when we did the checking of the key, we had to open up the third-person character blueprint. And that's located here under the third-person BP. If you're working with a first-person BP, then it's going to be under blueprints, and it's going to be called first-person character. And it's going to look, it'll basically just be the arms and the shoulders is really all you would see in there. But in this case, I've got the whole guy. And what we're going to do is we're going to open him up, and we're going to look at this guy for just a second. Because what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go in and add a light into the body. Now, what I have done is I've already added one in here. So what I'm going to do is going to tell you how we did that. I just went up to add a component, and I've scrolled down until I found the spotlight, and I added a spotlight in. It's already facing straight ahead. And then what I had to do is it came in at the bottom of the list. And so what I had to do was, in order to make sure that the spotlight follows the mesh wherever the mesh goes, then you just want to drag it up so where it touches it, and then it becomes indented underneath it. And what that means it's doing is that wherever the mesh is going, the spotlight is going to go with it. Now you do have two options in here. You have a follow camera, and you have we can follow the mesh in here. And I'm going to show you at the end of this, I'll show you the difference between the two, and you can decide which way you would like to do this so it works best for what you're trying to do. But for right now, I'm just going to attach this to the mesh. And what that ends up doing here is it's everywhere I go. If I turn on the flashlight here, everywhere I go, whichever way I happen to be facing, that's the way it's going. It's not the way my camera is going, because I would get, he would be shining a flashlight off to the side even though he's looking straight ahead. So it's pretty much wherever he's looking, he's going to get this flashlight effect. And that's kind of where I'm going with that. So what we do is we add the light into here. Okay, what I've done to set it so it would work correctly in terms of a flashlight is the intensity I'm going to set at 1800 to start with. But we are going to lower it down. You can see I had 1,000 there a second ago. We're going to lower it down here in a moment once we add in our IES effect. But for right now, 1800 is going to be a pretty good setting on that one. I'm going to change the inner cone angle to 10. This is the blue cone that you see inside of here. Anything that appears inside of this is going to be lit 100%. Anything that's going to be lit outside of that, which is the outer cone angle, the light is fading away until you get to the outer cone, and then anything that's outside of that cone doesn't receive any light at all. So it's all lighting in through here, and then it fades from that inner circle to the outer circle. So I have it set at 10 and 40. The attenuation radius is the length of the light, and I can zoom out here and you can see that's how far that flashlight beam goes out. And that's one of those things where it depends on your world, it depends upon your level, it depends on what you're trying to do. I set mine to 15,000. That goes out quite a ways. It's a fairly powerful flashlight. You might want a weaker flashlight, and you might decide that you want to go back and lower that up a little bit. Maybe you don't want them shining a flashlight a half a mile away. Maybe you only want it to be 25 or 30 feet. This is where you make that adjustment. Okay, so that's where you're going to go back and do that. Other than that, I'm going to take that out of there. Other than that, you're not going to do anything else in this window for right now. So I'm going to compile that, and I'm going to save it. And let's go back and look. And I have a flashlight that's shining there on the wall. Okay, and it gives me that nice little soft effect. It doesn't really look like a flashlight per se, but it does give me some light, and that's where I'm going with that. All right. Now, the other thing that you want to make sure you do in here, and I should have pointed that out before, is because we're starting with the flashlight off, you want to make sure you come down, and then with the spotlight selected, you're going to uncheck visible. So it starts out off. We're going to toggle that light being turned on, and we're actually going to use a key for it, a keystroke, and I'm going to show you a different way of setting that up. You know, we've already done a couple of the setups with the E key. Now I'm going to show you how to do one that's just a little bit different. So we'll come back to that here in just a second. In fact, we're going to do that right now. But this is how we set up using key input. What we're going to do is we're going to go up here to the Edit menu, and we're going to go down to Project Settings. Okay, and you're going to get this nice big window that comes up, and this is an important section in here. This is what allows us to do a lot of different things. For example, every time you start a level, it's going to open with a map. So when I open up this file, this is my map. This is what I see to begin with. That's located in here. If I select maps and modes over here, what you'll see is my default game map is called Blueprints, and my editor startup map is called Blueprints. And I have a drop-down menu because I actually have a lot of different ones in here. Each time I create a new level, I have the ability to start this level or start this game or start this editor in that particular map. So once you've got that all set up, you kind of understand how that one works. You can just go in and pick them from the drop down. Every time you come back and open up this level or this project, you're going to go to the same place. Down over here on the left, however, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down under my engine, and I'm going to look for input. I'm going to select my input. Now, by default, what you'll see is you'll see these two things right over here under bindings. And bindings is the word we use for deciding which key you're going to press on a keyboard. What we're going to do is we're going to bind a key to a particular action. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up action mappings here and make believe this flashlight's not there right now. But what you would see, which you're going to see minimally inside of this one, you're going to see jump. Now, if you open up a first-person game, you might see jump and you might see run underneath that. Or you might see jump and you might see shoot. I think it's actually shoot. But you're going to see a couple of things here. Those are already set up, and you can see there's already a key in here. Spacebar is what makes me jump. All right. On my gamepad, the face button bottom is what makes me jump. So those things are already set up. And you have the ability to go in and use a drop-down menu to pick just about any key you want. And you can see I can use a keyboard and pick from the keyboard, or I can pick from a gamepad, or I can have my mouse do things. I got all these different things in your Xbox One, Android, whatever it happens to be is already in there. And if I want to, I can use the Shift E or Shift or Control F or something like that to do what it is that I want it to do. So what we're going to do up here is we're going to click the plus sign next to action mappings, and it's going to drop in something called a new action mapping, and it's going to say none underneath it. And what you're going to do is you're going to highlight that, and you're going to say flashlight. You're going to type in flashlight, so that's part of it. And then what you're going to do in the drop down, you're going to go to keyboard, and in this particular case you're going to scroll down and you're going to find the F key, and you're going to select the F key. And this is going to make the FBR flashlight key for setting something up. All right, now adding things into here makes it available when we go back in and we start doing our blueprint. That's something to remember. This isn't a one-shot deal. This isn't like, oh good, now I have, every time I hit the F key my flashlight works. That's not true yet, because I still have to go back and I'm going to have to do a little bit of work here in my blueprint to make that actually occur. Okay, so this is the halfway step of setting this up. The F key is now available for me to use in Blueprint by adding it into here. Once you've got this done, all you have to do is close that little window. And then I, again, get in the habit of going up and hitting save, so that's taken care of. All right, so now that I've set it up so my F key can be used for a flashlight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into my third person and I'm going to scroll to the bottom of this whole window. This is my event graph down here at the bottom, and this is what I'm going to be adding in. All right, now you can see there's something in here called input action flashlight. I have spotlight down here, and I've also got my target visibility set up over here because this is going to be what turns that flashlight on and off. This input action flashlight right here is what activates the F key. The F key we just set up is activated by this input action flashlight. So what we do to get this in here is we have to work from the spotlight. And so keep that in mind. This is actually, instead of, normally what we do is we go in and we create this input action first, and then we can pull out of there, and then we can come down and do this. In this particular case, because of what we're trying to do, we actually have to work backwards. So what you're going to do is you're going to go over and you're going to take the spotlight and you're going to pull it out and you're going to drop it in, so you have this little capsule right here. And this is like setting the spotlight. This is going to be our target. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull out of here, then we're going to type in toggle visibility. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to right click, and we have to actually search for this one in the list. If you try to type this in, if I try to type in input, if I can type, there are a lot of them in here, and I'm never going to find the one that I need because it's not going to show up. All right, even if I uncheck that, I'm going to get a whole lot more choices. So what we're going to do here is we're going to actually just go down to input. Right there. We're going to open this up. We're going to open up action events. Right there. And now you're going to see there are our two things. Jump was already in there. In fact, it's already being used up in the rest of that blueprint. Okay. There's my flashlight. So I'm just going to select flashlight, and I'm going to wire that up. Okay. So it's my input action flashlight, toggle visibility, and I'm toggling the visibility of the spotlight. And I've got those things there already, so let me delete those. And then I just put a comment around it that says flashlight attachment, so I know that's what it is. Now, if you look up over here, you'll probably find there's input touch, there's my input action jump. All right, now what this is doing is this jump here is referring to an animation sequence that's already been prepared. And we'll be talking about animation sequences when we get into the skeletal mesh. But right now, this is what activates it. Without that input action jump, the J key or the space bar in this particular case doesn't work. And without this one down over here, the E key or the F key doesn't work for my flashlight. So keep that in mind. Going in and setting it in the inputs in your settings only takes it halfway. You actually have to come back down here and finish it off. Okay, so what we have basically is my F key. When I hit the F key, it will toggle the spotlight on, and if I hit it again, it toggles it off. So this is an on-off switch. It works like that. It starts out off, it clicks on. Click it again, it goes off. Click it again, it goes back on again. Right? So that's basically the setup of the light. I'm going to go ahead and save that. I'm going to close this down. And again, it was working, so I know that was all set up. So I can come over here and go up against the wall and hit F, and I'm going to get this effect. Okay. Now let's talk about the IES lighting effects. And what I do is I actually have in there, I have a whole page on IES profiles. And the IES profiles look like this. Okay, this is just a representation of, if I were to put a light in the ceiling, these are the types of effects that I'm going to get coming out of it. The light that's going to be reflecting off the top, the light that's actually going to strike the surface down below. Okay, now if you were to imagine a lot of these things, you might notice that some of these look a lot like a flashlight. If you concentrate on the beams down here, you get a flashlight effect. Always has kind of an inner circle, and then there's a bit of a shadow if you're dealing with a traditional bulb flashlight, you're always going to get a hot spot in the middle. You're going to get a little bit of a shadow around it where there's not quite as much light. And then you're going to get a fainter light coming out around the side, or maybe it might be a little bit stronger and it's kind of reversed from that. And you can see there are quite a few of these in here that have that effect. Number 4, 6, 7, 8, 10 to a certain extent, 12, 14, 15. I think there's no 12 in there because it doesn't work. 20, 18, 19, 17, all of those that are in here, they all kind of look like that. And I also provide them for you down over here. And what you can do is you can look at that list and say, well, let's try 25. And let's see what 25 does. And you can just click over here and download 25. And then what you'll do is you're going to go into your folder, wherever you like to do it. I actually created an IES folder over here. And I brought them all in, and they come in looking just like you saw them in that big picture. So I've got these things I can actually make them look bigger and see, and there's 25. 25 looks like a really cool little flashlight effect. Maybe let's look at some of the other ones that are in here. I've got more of them in here. Then I got one called Top Post, which kind of gives it's a little bit darker in the middle and then gets lighter as it goes out. I got a bunch of them in here. I've even got one that's a folder I found one of a folder of flashlight ones, and I actually didn't think these looked as much like flashlights when I actually used them as I did with the other ones. So I'm going to go back here, and let's go back, and the one I thought might be kind of good was 25. So there's 25 over here. I'm going to go ahead and select 25. And then back in my blueprints, I'm going to open this guy back up, click on my spotlight. Okay, I have to go back into my IES lighting and make sure 25 is selected again, which is right. That's 2. There's 25 right there. I'm going to click on 25. And then what I do in here is when I go to select the light and then go to the details panel, you're going to see a thing over here that says light profiles. And it says IES texture. And all you need to do is click that button and it adds that texture profile in there. So now that light is going to give off light just like you see it demonstrated right there. I'm going to compile that. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that off to the side. And let's go and look and see how that looks different compared to the way it did look. And you can see now I've got that hot spot right in the middle, maybe representing that bulb in here. And as I go up to the wall, I'm going to get that kind of nice effect. It gets brighter. If you look away, you're going to get this nice ringed effect. This is a great little effect to make this look more like a flashlight and less like just some sort of a straight light beam that's being projected out. And in fact, if you notice that if I again hit escape on this, and I'll go back and I'm going to break the link to that so it's gone. And we'll compile that. And we'll pull this thing back over and we'll go back again and take a look at it. That when I go up and shine a flashlight on the wall, I just get this really soft little look. And then I can come back and I can try something different. Maybe 21 is the one I want to try. So I can go through that and I can add 21 in here. Click on 21. Click on that. It's not letting me add it in there. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. The light profiles. Click that in there, and I can go back and I can test this one out and see how this one looks until I find something that looks maybe a little bit more like a flashlight. Now I'll show you here the ones that I got that were specifically for flashlights. Probably I think this one was one of the better ones, number 3 of those. So I'll click and I'll change that to number 3. I will compile that and we'll go back and we'll take a look at this one. And again, you're getting this. This is I thought these were a little too pat. I'm not quite sure how those things are written. They are done in code and text, so I'm really not quite sure how those things are created. But I thought that is just too much of a little shadow in through there. So I kind of preferred the basic ones that are in here, and I'll go back and maybe try a different one and see if I can't find something that looks kind of cool. That gives me the kind of effect that I'm looking for, and maybe this soft arrow, the parallel beam. We'll try that one. I went ahead and added it in the other window here off screen, and that's a little bit softer But you can see there's the variety of looks that you can get with these things, and they're really kind of nice. And these IES effects we'll be using as we do other things, so you might want to download all of those and take a look. And in fact, what you can also do is you can Google IES, so you can just come in here and type in IES profiles, and it'll take you to a bunch of them. You can download from individual artists. There's an artist here. That's where I got some of those that I am using. You can go back over here and go to evermotion.org. Some of them you have to pay for, so be careful with those. There's ones that you can get out of the from IES themselves, the national organization, or I guess it's international organization. You can get things from them, but a lot of times they want to charge you for them. And because they're expecting architects to buy them and use them in their real-world lighting. So you can check those things out and do them, and they really add a sense of reality to the lighting that you do and that you use. So that wraps up our series on blueprints. What we're going to cover next in our next set of lectures is we're going to be looking at skeletal meshes and how we can create a skeletal mesh, how we can bring one in, how we can edit them and change them, and even how to show you how to put a flashlight in the hand of one of those guys. So that's what we'll do when we come back.